Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. And yes, the rotating pens are back. These are two pens that I received in the mail yesterday. And I'm just going to go through why you're seeing them here. They're both PENBBS pens, and they're both acrylics and models that I haven't seen. Models, I mean, by the material that they're made of and the colors that they're made of. And I've always wanted to get the Togi design. I find it to be interesting, and I'll show how it compares to a blue version of a similar type of acrylic. And then the 469, I don't have anything with that blue swirl resin in it, and I just think it's exceptional. I think it's of a quality and of a nature that makes it unique. So look at these pens a little bit more closely, and be prepared. There will be no writing samples, since these are standard PENBBS nibs, which you've seen many times. I'm comparing these two pens because of the resin that they're made from, and the way that the resin with the pearlescence in it just works, I think, excellently. You know, obviously the blue one's a 308. We'll give you the exact model number. And the other one is a 323, the one that's in kind of a dark brown. But I fell in love with that when I saw it. And I wanted one, and it took a while. And the 323 was not my first choice, even though I do enjoy that model pen. I have two of them now, and they're constantly inked up. And they have replacement nibs in them, which also makes them nice to use. But I just thought I'd do a little swirl, you know, let you appreciate these resins for what they are. Appreciate the clean design that PENBBS does and the excellent machining. Now, I could look at these all day. And we have two crab friends in the background, two crab stands that are admiring our work and want pens. They want to work. They want to hold pens. So when I saw this on Etsy, it caught my attention, and I had to have it. I haven't seen this resin in any other PENBBS models, but it just might be that I haven't seen it. But it is interestingly well done. You know, a little bit different because it's just not one color there. You have some dark blue, some light blue, you have swirls. Yeah, it's a little bit more of a chaotic pattern than we've seen in similar type acrylics. I think this would be a great acrylic in the 456, the vac fill model, or the 308 model. And as usual, what's nice is you got that same acrylic in the section. And I think it really blends in and goes well with the clear ink reservoirs that this double-sided pen has. Yeah, it's just nice. It's interesting. It's different. Kind of reminds me of some Italian pens with resin similar to this, but I don't have any of those and probably never will. So I enjoy and admire what I have. Here we have the two pens disassembled that I did for cleaning. And these two pens, all three nibs and feeds, pulled out with very little effort. So I'm still mystified as to why maybe about 1 out of 7 or 8 or 10 of my PENBBS pens, I can't pull the nib and feed out of the collar. But I just want to show you that it can be done. Got some nice sunlight coming in, so we can have another look at this acrylic without any things in it. I have to admit, this has now become one of my top 5 acrylics. And this one is certainly coming into that realm. I have to use it for a while to really see if it grows on me. So you may ask, what is a nib collar? So I've reassembled this. So you just kind of hold the nib and feed and turn the section, and you can unscrew the nib assembly. So this way, if you had a bunch of nib assemblies, you could have put a lot of nibs in it, and you could easily swap them in and out, kind of like Yovo and Bach do with their nibs. So it makes it easy. And of course, every time I see an O-ring, it gets silicone grease. So another thing to note is anytime you unscrew or screw in a nib assembly like this, you should always remove the converter, because in this situation, the converter is attached to the end of that assembly, and when you try to turn it, it gets hung up on the converter and it's not going to come out easily. So that's how that fits in there. It's a very tight fit. You know, they use good converters with like that little rubber insert in there, or silicone insert, that makes for a nice tight fit. Well, I decided we are going to ink up the 323 model, and since I like putting different nibs in it, this is the nib that's going to go in there. This is a Togi nib, ground by Bobby. I've had it for a while, just haven't had the right pen to put it in, so now I do. So you can see that the Togi nib is ground similar to an Architect nib. It's in the Zoom family, so you're going to get a thinner line on the vertical and a wider line on the horizontal based on the grind. It's just a standard, you know, nib that Bobby's been using. I've enjoyed these in the past, so let's see how this one works in the 323. So Bobby's nibs always fit to feed well, so you don't have to worry about the tight clearances sometimes you get at the top of some of the PENBBSs, especially the 308 model. So comparing the normal PENBBS nib to the one ground by Bobby, and if I can adjust them properly, hopefully in this light you can see the differences between the way that end of the nib is designed and ground. So we need to now put some ink in here and see how it writes. Decided to go with this ink. I don't know, smoky quartz just makes sense to go with the 323. Here's the color card for smoky quartz. It is definitely, in my view, a nice brown ink, and no real shimmer or anything there. Here's two chromatographies I found. Not certain why the difference is between them. I mean, they almost look like two different inks. The one on the right, I may have let dry a little bit longer, but there's certainly a lot more going on there than there is on the one on the left. So chromatography, not an exact science. Of course, I wasn't happy with the two chromatographies, which were a little bit different. So I decided I would use chromatography paper and go through the process of putting a line down at the bottom, making it very wet, putting it in water and letting it sit there for 5 minutes. Unlike the other one where you dip it in, for me, for 10 seconds. And then the other filter paper that I use pulls up water quite fast. This pulls up water very slowly, which in theory might give us more delineation amongst the different colors or dyes that are inside of the ink. But this thing certainly does look like a rainbow. The mark there is the forceps that I use to hold it up in the water. I didn't expect it to get that high up on this paper. I'll devise a different system next time I do this, but this is just one of the most interesting chromatographies I've ever seen. Hope you're enjoying it too. Hard to tell from looking at this what the color of the ink will be when you put nib on paper, but we'll see that shortly. I got a pretty good fill on this. That was 3 turns, fill, expel, 3 times until you finally fill it, and I'm pleased with that. So one thing the 323 and the 469 have in common is they both roll quite easily. Of course, when they roll, they show off the interesting glitter, pearlescence in the resin. But what makes this pen good is how it fits in the hand. And because of the way the sun's coming in, we'll show how it fits in the left hand. Yeah, the section is nice and concave, so your fingers can settle into a nice spot depending upon how far you want to be from the nib and what thickness you want to hold at it. These threads you really don't feel. I mean, you can hold it there. They're not sharp. They don't dig into the hand. The sunlight on this resin is just, I just love it. I mean, this is my classic, you know, it's two-dimensional, so to speak. So there's a spot that's pretty pearlescence, and then if you turn it around 180 degrees, you'll see another spot that's pearlescence. So enough with the resin. Let's put the pen to paper, nib to paper. And as you probably know from the 323, this does not post. You can see how it flares out at the end here. Not designed to post, but then this pen is designed to write with. I mean, this nib, you get a decent amount of feedback from it, which is not unusual for a Togi design. If you do a complete vertical, you're going to get your finest line, no matter what direction you write in. If you hold it at a normal angle, then it becomes like a medium type line. The flow is very good. Fairly wet, but that's a wet patch of ink I laid down there. So if you go down at a very low angle, then you're going to get your widest line. And if you just come down at that same angle in the verticals, you'll get a thinner line. So that's the Architect nib, and the Togi nib is very similar. I would, not being a nib meister, I couldn't tell the difference between the two of them, but I enjoy the way it writes. I mean, it adds a little bit of character than a standard PENBBS nib would. And it writes with no pressure. It writes fast. So if that's what you like to do, then this nib will work fine for that. And you get a little bit of feel from the paper, which to me is not a bad thing. You get some feedback. So I don't know whether I ranked this pen before, but if I was to get it a rating now, I'd give it a 9.2. I think this is an almost perfect design for a writer to use. You know, I guess the only other one would be a desk pen, but again, it doesn't post. It rolls away. I mean, all of those things may detract it. And the 9.2 is with this nib. If I was going to do just the PENBBS nib, I'd give it an 8.8. And to me, the difference between these two is this is just generic writing, and this is writing with a little character to it with a custom ground nib. And to me, that does impact the rating of a pen, obviously, because we get these two right with. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look at another PENBBS pen. Hopefully you never get bored with them, because I have two 355s coming. One is what appears to be like the Christmas model, and they both are coming with PENBBS medium nibs. That'll be my first time to look at those. So in 2019, you'll have that to look forward to. So may you have many great writing experiences. Explore this great world of pens. Put some thoughts on paper. Put some ink on paper. May you have a phenomenal 2019, which is just around the corner. And hopefully you've enjoyed your 2018. So we've reached the end, so we're going to say bye. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy your life. Nice ink.